All right, so in this video we're moving on to the first of our research designs, surveys. In this video we're actually going to start by looking at quantitative data and what that is, a particular type of information about the world, and then look at the survey design itself. Like with all social sciences, social scientists need to do research and gather data to create knowledge about the world. But for us, our subject is people and groups, so that means we have particular ways we have to do that, because people are harder to get information about than, say, rocks. So it's important to design a research project the right way and to get the right kind of information about people to answer our questions about them. Sociologists typically categorize research designs based on the kind of information or data that they give us, either quantitative or qualitative. In this video, we're looking at survey designs that give us quantitative data. Quantitative data, think quantity, meaning number or amount, is data that can be coded as numbers. That word, coded, is important because quantitative data may be obvious numbers like how old are you, 18 years, what is your income last year, how much do you weigh, none of your damn business. But that's not all quantitative data can capture. Quantitative just means that our observations or the answer to an interview question can be put into a table and recorded meaningfully as a number. For example, if I ask you, how do you feel about taking courses online? You might talk to me for 10 minutes about your feelings about not seeing other students, how hard it is to keep up with classes and class times. I can't just turn that into a number or a scale of numbers. That's complex information. But if I ask you, how do you feel about remote instruction? And then tell you to indicate your answer from the following. I like it a lot, I like it all right, neither like nor dislike, do not like it very much, do not like it at all. I can assign each answer option a number or code to the answer. And when you circle your answer or click on it, I can write that down in my dataset as a number. This is helpful when we want to use sophisticated statistical math to find out if there are relationships between things observed. For example, is there a relation between race and mask wearing? Note here, observation does not literally mean looking. It means an instance of information, a piece of data on something. I mentioned in the first video that basically all sociological research designs involve either actually looking at people or asking them questions. And we can do this in ways that give us quantitative or numerical data, or richer and complex or qualitative data. Both are very useful, but let's dig into quantitative research designs here more with surveys. The most commonly used design in sociology is a survey. This is a way of asking interview questions or interviewing that generates quantitative data. This is done primarily by asking questions like this one, what we call fixed choice questions. We call it that because you have to answer based on a fixed number of choices. You can't just make up your own. This can be very useful if we want to compare answers on a large number of people. If I ask 5 people how they feel about going back online, they might give me completely different answers. One person might talk for 5 minutes about how they're nervous about keeping up. Another might give me an answer that's one word. That makes it hard to compare their answers. But when the questions have fixed options to choose from, then everyone has the same set of answers they can draw on. Talking to lots of people is also very useful for statistical analysis and prediction. I won't go into detail about statistics here, but putting it very simply, stats is a very good way of guessing. That's what prediction is, right? To use our example, how likely is it a person who is white is wearing a mask? In statistics, we can be more confident in our guess will be right if we have more information or data to base our guess on. So for example, more answers, more people. You get it. An example, if I see 5 white people and one is wearing a mask, I could maybe safely guess the next white person I see will not wear one. But if I observe 100 people, I can be a lot more confident in my guess because of a lot more data to base that guess on. All surveys use mostly fixed choice questions. That is what makes surveys surveys. And these types of questions give us numerical or quantitative data, which we can then analyze with statistics. Surveys can ask about all kinds of things: religious attitudes, sexual behavior, drug use, really anything. The key is that most of the questions are fixed choice and most of the data can be made quantitative. Surveys may be self-administered or taken on your own. This is known as a questionnaire. Or they can be given to you by someone. We've all seen that person in the mall with a clipboard and tried to avoid them. This is known as a structured interview. Both of these are surveys, just different kinds. And there are benefits to both. Questionnaires are cheaper and a little more private, but sometimes having an interviewer can help if people don't understand the questions. Maybe their English isn't their first language, for example. Or if we want to ask a lot of questions, or if we want to watch people as they answer. Sometimes seeing how somebody answers can be very helpful, or keeping engaged with them, talking to them, will keep them answering more questions. So think about it. If someone looks you in the eye and says, "How many sexual partners have you had in the last month?" It doesn't really matter if it's 0 or the entire Dallas football team. You're probably going to be saying something closer to 0. But if it's a box you click online, you might be a little bit more honest. So sometimes not doing it in person can also be helpful. Surveys are good about giving us description of the world and showing if different things like race, income, religion are related to each other. So these are all descriptive things. What is your race? How many people are in this race? How many people are religious? This is all describing the world. The thing is, they can't really show cause, and they can't really get into very complex reasoning processes. They can also be very expensive, a practical consideration many people don't think about. Once we run a survey, we put coded data in a data set, basically a big spreadsheet or grid. Note how the data here is numbers, each of which is a code for something else, religiousness or race. Again, these numbers are just stand-ins for a fixed choice answer. What we do with this data is run statistical analysis to see if one thing we asked about affects or changes another, what we call correlation or correlation. For example, if we note that the score on race here seems to correlate with a higher score on religiousness. Again, the thing that causes the change in the other is called the independent variable. And the thing that the change that is changed is called the dependent variable. Note the word variable here. We are interested in change. If a person's race changes, is that likely to cause a change in their religiousness too? Note also here that we can assume religiousness does not cause a change in race because we can't actually change our race. But this isn't always the case. We do not know that age doesn't cause a change in religiousness and not race, for example. That's harder to get at, though we can run some statistical analyses. Lastly, I want you to note that we can't really explain this cause with just quantitative or statistical data. We might observe a trend and a correlation, but we don't know why. We need other kinds of information for that. Note as well that sociologists do not assume race as a real biological thing here, so we can't actually use race as a cause. Next, we'll look at experiments, which are actually really good at getting at causal processes.